All right, guys, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's IT career workshop. I am so excited that you guys have joined me here today. And this is something that I've been working on for a while. And we're going to dive right into it, okay? And I see people are joining. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you, everybody, for joining. So let's talk about what this call is for. This is not related to IT audit. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. And I tried to put that in the email because I know a lot of people know me for my IT audit class. But since last year, because that's really when I started my program, a lot of people have contacted me asking about how to get into IT in general, not necessarily IT audit. And I think that's perfectly fine because some people might not be interested in IT audit. So I've been working on the program kind of on the side for a little bit. And now I just wanted to share these steps with you because there are steps that you can follow to successfully start, develop, and sustain your career in tech. So the goal of today's workshop is to walk through those steps, and we're going to walk through those steps, and hopefully you learn something that you're able to take away from this call and use that to implement or start transitioning to a tech career. All right. Let's look at the agenda for today. The first thing is I'm going to cover why you should consider a career in tech. Then I'm going to walk through 7 steps to start your career. And as I walk through those 7 steps, I'm also going to walk through some challenges that you might face and things that you should consider when facing those challenges. And then we'll talk about next steps, what you can do to implement those. And what I'm actually going to do for everybody that joined on this call is I have an ebook that goes over the steps of the same steps that I'm going to walk through now. So because I know this recording, I'm not going to do a replay. I will send everybody that attended live. I'm going to send you guys that ebook, or it's a small mini book that you guys can kind of take with you to walk through the steps as well. Okay, so let's get started. So let's start off with why should you consider a career in tech? And there are 4 main reasons I usually give people, okay? And here they are. 1, the salaries are just amazing. Like if you take a look at the IT career those in the US, I'm based in the US. If you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you're going to see that the average salaries for tech, like you can't even touch them with any other fields. So the average salaries are great. And there are a lot of people that are looking to make more money. So why not make yourself eligible for one of the jobs? In the US alone, over 600,000 jobs are expected over the next 10 years. So if you're looking for a field that has longevity, a field where you can grow while making quite a good salary, then you should consider tech. And for those that want to work remotely, tech is the place to be. It was so easy for people in tech to switch to remote working over the last 2 years. Personally, I have worked remote since 2014. So when the pandemic came and everybody was talking about working remote, I was already doing that for a long time. And I love it because for me, I'm a mom, I have kids, I'm married. So working from home is just what I like to do. It just makes it easier for me to manage my life. So if you're interested in working remotely, tech is the place to be. And another piece is career stability. And I mentioned this before, where so many jobs out there, they are looking for people to fill those jobs. And tech continues to grow into every aspect of our lives. So the more tech expands, the more staffing and resources they need. So definitely, if you are on the fence about whether you should go into IT or not, I would say these reasons: higher salaries, more job opportunities, remote work opportunities, and career stability. These are all great reasons why you should consider moving into tech, okay? So now what I'm going to do is we're going to cover the 7 steps, because I looked at my experience, I looked at the experience of my students that I've taught, I looked at the experience of other people that I've actually helped in other non-IT audit areas, and these are the steps that you need to follow to actually start your career in tech, okay? So let's start with this. And I'm calling the steps your career journey, because I believe it's a journey from wherever you are to you starting your tech career. And the first thing you need to do is set goals, okay? And when I say set career goals, this is more from a, how will I call it? From a motivational perspective. you first of all have to understand what your motivation is. If you do not know what your motivation is, it's going to be difficult. And let me tell you why. Because if you end up going into a field that's going to require you to have a certain skill set, it's going to be very challenging. Maybe if you are studying and it gets challenging and you don't have a motivation, it's going to be difficult for you to keep going. I know some people that said, "Oh, I want to get started in tech." They do what they're supposed to do. They say, "I want to go into this field." They pay for the class, and then once it becomes a little bit challenging to study, they stop. And I think that's because people forget the motivation. So the first step before you do anything is to think about, what's my motivation? Is this for my family? Is this for myself? Is this because I'm trying to advance in my career? I'm tired of low wage opportunities. Whatever that is, I call it your why. You need to find what your why is and document it so that each time you feel challenged or each time you feel like stopping, you can go back to this and say, this is why I want a career in tech. And then you give yourself that push to move on. So I always say you set that goal first when you want to begin. Now, it's easy to say, right? But you might feel some things, while you're doing this. You might be confused. You might be like, yes, I know my motivation, but I don't know anything about tech, right? Or you might be like, I don't even know where to start. Or there's nobody around me that knows tech. Nobody's talking to me about tech, so I don't know what to do. And you might just be afraid of failing. Like, what if I start and I can't do this? And I want you to know that's normal. So that's really one thing I want to tell you guys here today is it's absolutely normal if that happens. That's why you want to have that motivation and you want to be in an environment that supports you as you feel all these things. So definitely make sure you watch out for imposter syndrome or maybe even overwhelm as you start to look at all the options. And if you're getting frustrated, you should watch out for that and be watchful of fear as well, because that's what might actually stop you from moving on to the next stage. So the first stage for those that are taking notes is making sure you find out what your motivation is, understanding that you might be confused, you might be afraid, you might not have support, but it's still doable because there are lots of people that have done this before. Okay? So that's the first step that you need to follow through. Okay? Hopefully everybody got that. Now, that's essentially dealing with your mindset. I call it the psychology, right? Once you have that mindset kind of laid down, then you can move to the second step. And this has to do with exploring career options, because I can tell you for a fact, tech has so many fields. In fact, even my students in IT audit know that. I tell them, yes, this class is about IT audit, but there are at least 5 different fields that you can go in with this knowledge. And that's just one area of IT audit. I'm going to show you another slide that just tells you so many other careers. For those of you that registered, I think everybody registered here, you got a file or a downloadable file that talks about different career areas. So there's just so many. So for this stage, what you are going to be doing is exploring. You have to explore so that you know what is right for you. Now, again, I know some of my students are here and I truly appreciate you guys supporting me. But my students, I'm sure you guys went through this stage as well. You looked at all the options and then you decided, okay, IT audit it is. Now, for everybody else, it could be any other area. But it's absolutely important for you to explore the different options so that you know what works for you. You know your personality. You know your why, what you're looking for. You know what kinds of flexibility needs you need, right? You need to consider all of that as you're exploring so that you pick the right career option for you. Okay? So here I say you want to select the option that's suited for your personal interests, the skills that you have or are willing to acquire, your talents, your natural talents, and your goals. For example, for me, I do not like coding, even though I have a computer science background. I just don't like coding. So there's no need for me to try and look for a career that has coding. I need to move on to a career that does not require that, okay? And I was telling you, this is just a small list. Like if you do a proper research on IT careers, you're going to get a very long list. But I just wanted to show you, these are all the different options that I have on the screen. You can go into software or web development, network admin, cybersecurity, GRC, governance, risk and controls, You can be a business analyst, project management, product management, database administration, data scientist, UX, UI design, or even support. So these are the ones I put on this screen just to show you that there are many different options. And each one of these has its advantages and disadvantages, but it's all based on what you are looking for. So in the second step, or what I'll call the second stage of your career transition, you need to do a good research, perform research on the different career options so that you know what could work for you. Okay. Now, I always like to prepare people, right? So it's not just, oh, pie in the sky, everything is going to be great. You might be confused about the career options whenever you get to this stage, right? You might be like, there's so many options, which path should I select, right? Again, there's nobody around me, so how am I going to know what to do? And you might still feel like, what if I select the wrong option and I fail, right? And so those are feelings. And so you need to continue to watch out for imposter syndrome. And for those that don't know, imposter syndrome is essentially you feeling like you can't do it, you're not worth it. Just feeling like it's not something that you can do. So you need to watch out for that. And the reason I point that out is if you know what to watch out for, when you're feeling those things, you know what it is and you're able to walk through it. So even as you're going through that career exploration stage, watch out for all these feelings and emotions and make sure you work through them because you do not want anything to stop you from achieving your goal. Okay. So step one, you start off by defining your motivation. Step two, you explore your different career options. And then in step three, you identify your path. So this is where you've taken all the information that's available to you that you've done research on, and then you want to narrow down to, I say 1 to 3 options. If you are able to identify one option during your research, perfect. You know what you want to do, go for it. Like I would say, my students, you knew what you wanted and you went for it. So perfect, you're there. But if you're still not sure, then give yourself some grace. Select 1 to 3 options, and we'll talk about how you narrow it down later on. But at least that takes it from 20 or whatever, how many you are looking at, to a smaller number, 1 to 3 options that you can then work on to further refine. And then once you select your 1 to 3 options, right? One thing I always say is this, and you guys note this down. Try and make sure that those 1 to 3 options are related in some way. So don't pick something that is so different. And the reason I say that is, so even if you start down one path and you decide that, I don't really like this, if you move to your next option, because they are already related, you should be able to transfer some of the things you already learned from that first path where you started to the second one. So that way you're not starting all over again and you're able to move forward faster. Does that make sense? If you guys are following in the chat, just type got it, because this is important. Part of what happens is a lot of people say, oh, I can do this or this or this, and then they start just going in different directions. And what happens when you go in different directions? You never move forward. So at least select 3. If you already have one, perfect. If you can't select one, select 3 that are related so that you can technically switch through those 3 areas without necessarily losing time. Okay? Now, again, some things you might feel here, and this is, I feel this at times too. You might feel like, oh my, I can do everything. Okay? And then you might be like, oh my God, I can't do any of this, right? So it can go from extreme to extreme because there's so many options and you're trying to narrow down. And then you might be like, what if I select the wrong thing? What if I make the wrong selection? How is that going to impact me? And then that might just make you overwhelmed and seem crazy. I just want you to know that's okay. So the reason I put this feelings here is because I want you to know that you're not crazy if you feel these things. It's okay and you can walk through it. So the task is just making sure you walk through this, calm yourself down, select 1, 2, or 3 if you need to, and move on from there, okay? Now, what I usually tell people is even after you select the 3, you rank them and you say, okay, this is my top one. And then you go for that one. And then if for any reason that doesn't work, you can go to the second and then maybe the third. But what you want to do is you don't want analysis paralysis. So if you see what I'm saying, watch out for. Imposter syndrome is everywhere because every single step of your journey, you will feel that imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to want this? Well, I want you to know that you are worthy of it. You can do it. Okay. So make sure imposter syndrome doesn't get you. And you do not want to be stuck in analysis paralysis where you feel like you can't make a selection. Make a selection and move on. Okay. Don't doubt yourself as well. Yes, I know that's normal, but once you make a selection, go for it. That's just what you want to do. And you want to make sure that you understand that you might still be afraid, but you can do it afraid. That's the title of a book that I really like. It's just do it afraid. Keep going. Okay. So once you've now made your selection, again, you can start with 1, 2, 3, and then you narrow it down to 1. Then you can move on to this next stage. And this next stage is where you now acquire your skills. All right. So let's walk through the steps. You know your motivation, and it's going to keep you grounded when things get challenging. You've explored different career options in stage 2. And then stage 3, you made your selection at the end of stage 3, you should have selected at least one that you're working with. And then now in stage 4, you have to learn. Okay. And this is the reason why I always start with making sure you have your motivation, because you have to learn a lot. And this is probably the stage that a lot of my students, this is where I meet a lot of them, is where they're ready to learn. You need to make the time to learn the information. Okay. So in this stage, you're going to start acquiring new skills for your new career path. And then you need to start building a network. You want to be in a community of like-minded people so that as you're learning, you're able to move each other forward. Now, here's one thing I want to talk about the learning stage. What you need to learn will be different for everybody depending on the career path you've chosen, right? So you might need to learn some technical skills based on what you've selected. And in some areas, you may not need to learn technical skills. So for example, if you're more interested in IT project management and you've already done some project management work, you might not need as much learning as someone that's totally new to that world. So learning doesn't mean you have to spend like months and months and months learning. You definitely do not need to go back to college for a degree for this. Please note that. There are many ways that you can get learning. Some are even free for coding. There's so many coding places that you can learn for free. I think I have a list on my website. So don't feel like this always has to be paid. Some can be paid, some can be free. Now, the reality is depending on the field that you're going into, sometimes you get what you pay for is what people say, right? So the quality that you might be looking for, you might need to pay. And then some things maybe you don't need to if you have some of the skills. But at the bottom line though is you need to learn, you need to acquire skills. And again, you might be confused. Okay, so what skills do I need to learn? Okay, and then you might still be unsure of where do you go to acquire skills, and that's normal. You just need to learn that. And there are ways where you can look at the job descriptions and things like that to figure out what skills you need to learn. And then I know some people might feel like time is not on your side. Oh, I'm too old. I can't go back for another 2 months or 3 months course. But this is what I always tell people. Someone told me this years ago and I never forgot it. Whether you like it or not, time is going to pass. So the time is either going to pass with you learning new information or not. Okay. So what does that mean? We're in April right now. God willing, everyone is still alive. Summer is still going to get here. So you're either going to be in summer where you've already learned the material, or you're in summer and you're still thinking about, oh, I'm too old. So tell me, guys, which one works? Do you want to be the person 2 months down the line or 3 months down the line that already learned, or the person that's still thinking, oh, I don't have time? Okay. If you want to be the learner, type learner in the chat. Let me see you guys, because this is something that stops people. They say, I have some people that contacted me last year about being interested in my IT audit course, and they're still telling me, oh, yes, I can't do it right now. I'm like, in that time, so many other people have taken the class, and so many other people have gotten jobs, and you're still waiting. So you don't want to be someone that's still waiting. Of course, everybody might have legitimate reasons, I understand, but you don't want to stop your progress because you feel like you don't have time. Because whether you like it or not, time is going to pass. Do you guys get that? If you guys get that, can you just tell me time, time in the chat? Because time is going to pass whether we like it or not. So continue to watch out for self-doubt. Okay, I see you guys. Thank you guys. Make sure, again, you don't have analysis paralysis about what to learn, where to learn. You just have to move on. Because if you're trying to get somewhere, you need to start moving. Okay? Thank you, everybody. I see you guys time. I'm glad you guys got it. So once you've learned, now you have to develop your profile. Now, this is what I call this. I call you a profile builder in this stage. This is where you know what you're looking for. You have the skills, but you're not just going to launch out there without planning, okay? You have to prepare your resume. You have to prepare your LinkedIn profile, and all that, your personal social media page. If it was crazy before, you got to clean it up, okay? So you need to make sure you build that profile so that when recruiters are looking at your profile, they're like, this is the person we want for our job, okay? So in this stage, you want to make sure that you do all the things necessary to prepare yourself. You prepare your resume, you prepare your LinkedIn profile or your social media profile if you have that, so that you are ready for the job search process, okay? Now, again, I'm sharing with you feelings here because it's real. It's not something that you're just going to go stage by stage without feeling anything. So you might start feeling confused about what resume template should I use again? Or how do I present my new skills? Or how can I highlight the skills I had from my prior job? Or even, this is a big one. How do you own your new skills? You should be able to own those new skills. So make sure you keep working on that imposter syndrome, knowing that you can absolutely do this. Work on your self-doubt, because if you've taken the time to invest in yourself to learn new skills, you shouldn't doubt those skills. You do not want to procrastinate, absolutely. You want to make sure you keep moving forward and don't be scared. This is doable. I've seen so many of my students do it. So this is something that's real. So don't be scared of owning your new skills, because that you need to own them in order to be able to put them in your profile, right? So that you can then confidently apply to jobs and interview. All right. So can you guys in the chat tell me, own your skills, if you guys get what I'm saying? Are you guys ready to own your skills? Because you have to move from I don't know this to I've learned this and I know this and I can do this. Okay? And the next stage is not just immediately applying for jobs, because I'm sure that's what some of you were expecting. But the reality here is you need to network, okay? What do I mean by networking? You need to be in a community of like-minded people that know where you're going, and you need to find people in the new field that you're trying to go to so that you can, reach out to them. You can get more information about the field. So it's absolutely important. In fact, I can't remember the actual numbers now, but a lot of jobs actually don't get posted on the internet because they already fill them internally. Some of the jobs that actually get posted, they're not looking for anyone. They already know who they need to hire. So it's important to network with other people that can help you as you're going through this job search process. Like with some of my students, a lot of people got referrals from other students in my class. I got a message from someone today, one of my students that also got a job, and she was like, oh, can you please tell others if they are looking for a job where I work, it's one of the big four, tell them to email me their resume and I'll submit it for them. You need to be in that network of people that will be doing that for you. And even if someone can apply for you, at least maybe you can learn something from them that you can then use, right, to move your career forward. So networking is absolutely understated. I think sometimes in the minority community, we don't do enough of this. Everybody's trying to get their own bag. And you forget that, you know what? It doesn't always have to be about me. I can look around me. I can help other people. And the collective, everybody does better when I do better too. At least that's my mindset. My mindset is helping people doesn't cost anything, right? With knowledge, with referrals. Even if I can't refer, at least I can tell you what I know. So for example, in this workshop, I'm just sharing what I know to help you guys. So it's important for you guys to have that network and that community so that, again, you don't feel alone and you're able to move forward in your career journey. All right. So make sure you network, and that way it would even help you when you want to apply for a job. Okay. And one thing here again is you might be like, oh, how do I network? How do I find the right people? I don't want to put myself out there on LinkedIn or, reaching out to people. Or what if they tell me no? And that's okay. Some people might tell you no, but guess what? Other people will tell you yes. There's someone, she wasn't even my student. What she did was she was trying to transition to IT, and she just kept emailing recruiters. And she said a lot of them told her no, probably 90%. But one said yes. They interviewed her and she got a job. Okay? So sometimes that's all you need to do. You know what you're looking for, and you need to be able to work hard for it. You might be rejected sometimes, but guess what? It only takes one person to give you a chance, and you got it. So don't always feel like, oh, I don't want to try this because it might fail. But what if it doesn't fail? What if it works, right? So don't have limited thinking. That's what I'm going to put here. Limited thinking, which is like, oh, I can't do this because the people around me may not tell me yes. No, expand your thinking. If the people I know are not the right fit, then I need to know more people. I need to expand my the people that I'm working with, right? So you need to make sure that you expand that scope and network to help yourself as you go through this journey. Are you guys getting this? Is this helping anyone? Is this helping anyone? If it's helping anyone, let me know in the chat because I want to make sure that you guys are learning from this. It's absolutely important to walk through this, okay? Now, once you've done all of this, okay, then I say you're ready to launch your job search. And when you're launching your job search, I'm calling you a job seeker. And essentially, you are now actively working towards applying for your job. You're looking towards that dream job, right? So you find a job, you apply for the job, you interview, and fingers crossed, you get the job. But the good thing about getting to this stage, and the reason I put this in stages is because if you just jump from wherever you are now to start applying for jobs, you're not going to be fully ready. But if you've done all the work, you already know your motivation and you're grounded. You already explored different options. You actively found the one that you wanted, right? You selected your option knowing that's what really works for you. You acquire the skills, right? You network and you build your profile. Once you've done all of that, you automatically even feel more confident about launching your job search. You're able to own your new profile because you know you've done the work to get here. All right. And so you are actively working towards that job search now. And there are ways where, I always tell my students, always look at the job description, make sure it's what you're looking for. You don't want to get the wrong job, start the job and be like, right? So make sure it's the job description that fits what you're looking for. Now, it doesn't have to be 100% match, but that's okay, right? At least make sure it has the core of what you're looking for and then go for it, okay? And so when you get to this stage though, right, you might continue to feel confused about that process, but it's actually more straightforward. Like I was just telling you, one of the key things I tell my students is always read the job description because that's what's going to help you apply. And I'm going to give you guys a quick tip here that I teach my students, which is don't apply to each job with the same resume. What you want to do is you might have one resume, right? That's your general resume. But as you apply for each job, you have to tailor it because you want them to look at that resume and say, this resume fits what we're looking for. So I'm not asking that you lie or anything like that. I'm asking that you highlight the parts that are recommended or required for that job, right? So let's say if you have 10 things on your regular resume, but this job only requires 4 of it, then I'll say in your resume, make sure those 4 things are at the top, right? So that the manager sees that. And you're tailoring most of what you talk about to those so that the hiring manager feels like you're a good fit. So that's one way to approach your job search journey, okay? And again, don't get confused about things like job site. Either use a job site or go to the company's website. Like, don't let things like that stop you from moving forward. And then don't be overwhelmed by job descriptions. And this is why it's important to acquire the skills first. Because once you've acquired the skills first, you're then able to understand job descriptions when you start looking to apply for jobs. Okay? And then absolutely Make sure that you don't over apply, where you just apply to 100 different jobs, different places that don't even make sense for what you're looking for. Make sure your job search is strategic and it's targeted. Okay. So make sure your goal is aligned to your strategy. You don't want a situation where you're looking for a job as I'm going to say, website developer. I'm just using that as an example. But then you're applying for jobs for IT support because I need a job now. No, that's not going to work. It's going to confuse you because you're not going to be well prepared for your interviews. You want to focus on the job that you're looking for. I've seen some people try to do that. I'm like, yes, I know this is the job I want, but I'm going to apply for all these other jobs at the same time. And you're not getting any job, by the way, because you're now confused, right? And you're trying all these different things that are not necessarily working for you. Okay. So just to make sure that you have a strategy where you're able to align your job search process with what you're truly looking for. Okay. Do you guys get that? And so let me just walk you through. I think I was sharing this earlier. I just put a screenshot here. Like, just look at those numbers. Okay. And this is not even everything. So this is from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. And look at this. These are median numbers. Okay. It could be higher, it could be lower, but these are median numbers. And you can see the lowest one here is IT support, which if you want that, that's fine. But I tell people, if you're going to do the work of learning IT, might as well go ahead and learn the skills for one that pays high. So that's something you want to consider. Okay. So that's something, that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. So let's look at this. Okay. And then I'm going to see if you guys have questions. Please put it in the Q&A so I can answer them. But let's walk through the stages again. And you guys ask me questions about any of this. The first thing, you want to find your motivation. And why? The reason is because I want you to have an anchor. I want you to have something to rely on, to lean on whenever things get challenging. You want to be able to go back and say, I want this because XYZ, and that's going to help you. Okay? You want to find or explore tech career options because there are many out there. And then you select one that works for you. Okay? Based on your personality, based on your goals and where you're trying to go. Once you've done that, you want to identify the skills that you need to acquire. And then the reason for that is because that's what's going to help you in the next stage. So identify the skills that you need to acquire and then go ahead and acquire those skills. You want to develop your profile. So you're not going to focus on your old profile. You want to build your new profile, right? And you want to network based on that new profile. Add people on LinkedIn in the job area you're going to. You're going to hear them talk about maybe workshops and seminars in that new field that you never would have found if you were not connected to them. So connecting to them alone on LinkedIn opens up your viewpoints of knowing more about this field. And that's where you start saying things like, oh, my company is hiring, right? So that's how you network. And then you launch your job search, okay? Thanks, everybody. And you guys have an amazing rest of the day. Bye, guys.